All right, active weather ahead here as we head towards the Alabama weekend. So let's kind of give it a synopsis here, and then we will dive right on in. So our weather headlines. The storms with this system are going to arrive Friday. Afternoon, evening, that's going to vary on where you're at in the state. They're going to last through Saturday morning in our southern easternmost counties across the Wiregrass. The severe threat, the stronger storms are going to be further north, further west. The best bet of severe weather is probably over Mississippi, but we will have to watch a line as it crosses into the state. And the big threats, gusty winds, we're going to have some pretty heavy rain. Additional threats are possible, but that's going to be really the big thing here with this. So look at the SPC. This is what they have outlined for Friday. You can see that slight risk area for many counties right along and to the west of I-65, all the way down to about Jefferson County. And then you go on down to the Black Belt as far south as northern Marengo County, Green Hale, all the way up towards the Shoals, and that kind of depicts the orientation this line is going to be moving. And the impacts are this. This is called a QLCS, is what it's going to be. With those, you can't ever rule out a tornado. The wind dynamics don't favor that sort of development, discrete supercells. However, we've seen it before in these lines where a little kink forms, and you can have a very brief, weak tornado, so we'll be watching for that. Hail is in the forecast. We don't typically have hail with setups like this, but I'll include that. The gusty winds and the rain, that's really going to be the big thing with this, and of course lightning, as always, comes with these thunderstorms. So I want to go now to our modeling here. This is the 3K, and I'm going to just kind of drag this forward. This is at noon on Friday, okay? So we're probably going to have a decent chunk of the day dry. In fact, I'm going to actually back this up to the morning. So let's start this at about 6 o'clock on Friday morning, because we are probably going to see some morning showers. This really won't have a big impact on the rest of this event. There's really not instability to begin with, so the fact that this comes through here isn't very bothersome or changing of the forecast. So this is a look kind of as we go through the day here. This is now at noon, so some morning showers are certainly possible. And then as we head into the afternoon, you're going to see a line sort of materialize back here, kind of a big mess of rain and storms. And even this stuff here in the afternoon up across Huntsville, the Shoals, this is not likely to be severe. The best wind dynamics are going to be a little bit behind this, so there is some conditional threat to this, meaning there are some things that are still to be worked out, but with general consensus is this is going to be a decently potent line of thunderstorms. Not all will be severe, but we'll certainly have to watch it. So let's go from about 5 o'clock onward, and this is when it starts to enter Alabama and become an Alabama issue. So let's go to about 7 o'clock. I'm going to zoom this in here to show more of the state. So bear with me as I do this. All right, so this is at about 7. Starting to see that line materialize. And again, I think the stronger storms are still to the west at this point, but we're starting to see rain and storms across northwest Alabama. As we progress through the evening, by about 9 o'clock, now that line stretches from up near Huntsville, Scottsboro, down through Cullman, over to Jasper, south towards York, Livingston, and then back towards Jackson, Brandon, Mississippi. So the only place along a line would you have a setup like this that's going to have gusty winds is going to be the lead edge, okay? Once you get behind this lead edge, there's a lot of rain, a lot of thunder, but you don't have that severe aspect to it. It's just going to be along the front line. So let's go from 9 o'clock up to about midnight here. And you'll see as the line crosses the state, we really lose the structure down here. A couple reasons for that. There's no wind dynamics down here at this point. They shift north as the system moves along. Our highest rain totals are going to be here, and we expect this line to, weaken, gradually as it moves across the state. So by this point, we may be well under severe limits. And again, this is not a severe weather outbreak, but it's our first decent potential in quite some time. Move us ahead to about 3 o'clock. And now you've got this line, and yes, it looks very linear in nature, but this is not going to be robust. This is going to be kind of a broken line of showers and thunderstorms. Down here in southwest Alabama, southeast Alabama, there's not going to be any favorable wind profiles to keep this line going. In fact, You're going to see parts of southeast Alabama that really aren't going to get a whole lot of rain out of this. So big discrepancies from rain to the north versus the southern half of the state. So this is at about 7 o'clock Saturday morning. Rain is clear in northern Alabama. And by mid-late morning, we'll call it noon, this will be moving out of the wiregrass. None of this will be severe by this point, just straggling showers and thunderstorms. And then you see where the afternoon takes us as this clears out. We have northwesterly flow, and then we turn much cooler. So I want to break this down a little bit for those of you who maybe wonder about how, when I say dynamics, that sounds like a fancy term. We're talking about the dynamic fluid, the dynamic flow of winds. You know, how is it changing from the surface to the upper level? So this is noon on Friday. What you're going to see is mid-level winds, about 5,000 feet or so, are going to show up in yellow. I've got your surface winds plotted too. So the bigger the difference in speed and direction between the surface winds and the winds aloft, the better our wind shear. So we go to about 6 o'clock, okay? Our winds aloft, decently strong, out of the southwest. Our surface winds will be out of the south, so you have a little bit of veering with winds, meaning if you were to put a balloon up into the air, starting at the surface, it's going to go through a wind that's southerly. But as it rises, it's going to pivot just a little bit. Again, this isn't directional shear, this is more speed shear. So we've got faster winds aloft. Think about it. If our winds are moving very fast, or faster, relatively speaking, above the surface to an extent that it causes the air to rise, as you evacuate or move that air that was in the middle of the atmosphere away, something has to take its place. So that causes air to rise. And this typically will give us what's known as a QLCS, or a linear feature, as far as the structure of the line. So this is 6 o'clock, and I've also overlaid here where that precipitation, that line's going to be that I just showed you. So this moving in, and see where it overlaps over here in Mississippi? This is why I think the best threat is in Mississippi, because you have this when there's still some instability. You're going to have that jet streak, or that low-level jet, as we call it, in place. So let's move this forward. As we head into the evening, we still have this this jet streak, or this low-level jet, in place. Southerly winds at the surface. Our wind direction doesn't change a whole lot with height. Again, this is a speed shear type thing. And because they're almost parallel, this is going to mean a slow movement of the line. That's where we're going to have the bigger rain totals. Because this is not going to move just straight west to east. There's going to be a northeasterly component to it. So let's move ahead to about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we still have decent winds aloft, but at this point we have such a discrepancy between the instability values that earlier that this should be weakening again. We still have good dynamic setup. And then moving forward here, you'll notice, see how the yellow's going away. The stronger winds are now up here over the Appalachians. And that's going to mean that, whatever's left here, again, this is not very, very intense, very strong at this point. The structure of the line begins to kind of fall apart, and any severe threat would be over with. So that's kind of the look at it. Again, winds at the surface versus winds aloft, and that difference in speed and direction is what we look at for what type of system we're going to have. So again, a look at our threats here across the state. It starts Friday afternoon, evening in northwest Alabama. It's going to go all the way through to Saturday morning. I don't think there'll be really anything severe once you get south of Birmingham, and a lot of these will be below severe limits. But flooding in some spots. Let's take a look at the rain total. So this is going to be off the European model. These are vastly different between the two. The European showing a track right in the middle of the state, from down near Butler, Marengo, Choctaw, Hale County, Tuscaloosa County, straight off to the north and east, with a swath of 2.5 to 3.5 inches. Up in the shoals, about a tenth, just shy of an inch and a half. So much lower totals. The wiregrass, again, you're talking a tenth to 3/10 of an inch. Some spots perhaps less than that. This is the GFS solution. Okay, this is far more conservative statewide. However, this has got a strip, and I don't think this will end up being the narrative here, where you've got 6 inches in Huntsville and an inch in Gadsden. Okay, you can have some variability here. I think the GFS is a little bit off on this as far as the distribution is concerned, but both of these show the highest rain totals will be in the northern half of the state, whereas down to the south and east, rain totals will not be as intense, as aggressive. So let's go now to our temperatures. That's going to be the aftermath of this. So this is Sunday morning, 50s in the Wiregrass and down along the coast in Mobile, Escambia counties. But we've got temperatures near 40 degrees in much of northern Alabama. Sunday's going to be a chilly, raw like winter day. It's sunny, okay? But northerly winds, very low moisture levels, and a temperature of about 46 degrees will feel much more like 40. So Sunday's a very chilly afternoon for much of the state, 50s if you're lucky down in southern Alabama. And then by Monday morning, we're talking about temperatures down in the 20s in much of central Alabama. So a freeze is possible for much of the state. And then Monday afternoon, winds begin to subside a little bit, but we'll still have those cold temperatures, that cold air still in place. 40s for much of the state of Alabama. Tuesday morning, again, 20s and 30s. With a very light, calm wind overnight, we should be able to have efficient radiational cooling all across the state. And so temperatures will be fairly even, minus along the Gulf Coast. And then by Tuesday, we start to see a warming trend. Notice your winds now out of the southwest, so we do see a bit of a warm-up later in the week. So that's kind of the synopsis of it. Of course, we'll keep doing updates as this, as we get closer. But again, Friday evening, be weather aware. Gusty winds can sometimes cause power outages. I know we have elevated power lines in our neighborhood. Lots of lightning too, and then the heavy rain. That'll be a big thing as well. So we'll keep a close eye on it, give you updates as it happens. Y'all have a great night, and we'll see you next time.